Here's a story that kind of flew under the radar for a lot of folks, but may actually be one of the most important stories of the year, at least as it relates to the preservation of film photography long term. So follow me here. I've made quite a bit of fuss on this channel about the problems facing film photography more broadly. The fact that the major companies are discontinuing film stocks left and right. Film prices are increasing year over year, even outpacing the insane rates of inflation that we've seen recently. And at least as it relates to any form of color film, they're going the way of manual transmission, which is to say that they're getting harder to find, and the ones you do find are really expensive. And making matters worse, these days you can count the companies out there that are coating color negative film on one hand. But in the words of the all-knowing Yoda, there is another. And the company that's poised to jump in the game and bring us all new color film comes from the East, the Far East. That would be Lucky Film Company, a company that comes from China that made some films late in film photography's life cycle. And it's hard to say whether they had all that much success as they jumped in the game so late, and by the time they got good films on the market, stuff started to fall apart with the advent of digital cameras. And all of this comes from a report that Lucky Film is going to be bringing back SHD 400 black and white film, and they're also considering a return to manufacturing color film stocks. And there are actually a couple of data points here to consider, so let's take a look. The first thing that actually brought this on my radar was a post that I discovered on Reddit, and I'm going to show you the post and we'll talk a little bit about it. But according to this Reddit post, Lucky Film in China has announced that they will be reproducing a series of color negative films later this year. And that's really awesome considering that Lucky Film has some experience producing color negative films. At least to my count, they released 7 in their history. At the time, the company had signed a 20-year partnership with Kodak, but due to the complete collapse of the photographic film industry, the deal only ended up running for 4 years. The films that they released were called GBR 100, GBR 200, and GBR 400. And I have no idea what the GBR stands for. All 3 of these films were made in-house in China and were discontinued in 2012. Like I said, due to the onset of digital camera. And those films were marketed outside of China under the Lucky Super name. So after reading that Reddit post and having my interest sufficiently piqued, I decided I would try to scour the internet and see what else I could drum up about this proposed new film stock coming from Lucky. The original post that all of this draws from is from the company Reflex. And this is a company, if you think back, it's the company that kind of got sideways with Cinestill under their marketing of Reflex 800T. Anyway, Reflex's post on Instagram said this, that Chinese film producer Lucky Film is re-releasing its SHD 400 black and white film and may return to color film production in the future. So the post at a minimum confirms that Lucky Film is going to return to manufacturing film in some capacity. We're going to get SHD black and white 400. So that in and of itself is awesome. But it doesn't make a lot of sense for them to want to fire up their assembly lines just to make one film stock. The hope for them, at least, is that this film will sell well and they can ramp up their production and move into color film manufacturing. And the reason this is so encouraging, at least for me, is because Lucky Film is somebody who's been in the game before. In all likelihood, they've still got a lot of the machinery that they use to manufacture film in the first place. That's why it was pretty easy for them to just decide, oh, we're going to decide to start manufacturing a black and white film stock again. And like we talked about earlier in the video, they have released color films in the past, indicating at least that they've got some experience manufacturing color film stocks. So those recipes and that technology may be out there and still exist. So they're not starting completely over, not starting from scratch. So they're not in the position of Harman, who's having to recreate everything from scratch. They have a good jumping off point. They've done this before. At least to me, it stands to reason that we may get a better product earlier from Lucky Film. But wait, there's more. According to the commenters on the Reddit post, there were actually more confirmations of Lucky being interested in bringing back color film as well, but these came almost exclusively from Chinese social media. Unfortunately, with my Chinese being limited to what I can order off my local Chinese restaurant's menu, I wasn't able to actually take the plunge and find the posts myself. But for some of you guys out there who may have the motivation, apparently those posts are out there and there may be more information to be found. And ironically, the thing that's bringing Lucky back into the fold, making them interested in making film again, is the high prices of film. It's clearly a much more profitable endeavor to make film in the year of our Lord 2024 than it was back in the year 2008, let's say. Prices are up, and there are not a lot of folks out there competing with you. It's a seller's market. And on top of that, making film is really complicated. It requires insane amounts of engineering, all sorts of really complicated machines that you may or may not be able to locate or find parts to get them working again. It's just a really daunting prospect to start making film this year. It's those high prices that brought Lucky back into the fold. Just think about it. If it were easy to start a film manufacturing company these days, prices being what they are and demand being what it is, there'd be companies popping up all over the place starting starting to manufacture film once again. But like we talked about, it's really complicated. And lucky for Lucky Film, pun completely intended, they're uniquely situated to take advantage of this market. It really just makes a lot of sense them getting back into the game. But let's take a look at some of the sample images from some of the Lucky color negative films in the past. And finding good, accurately developed, non-expired images is pretty tough to do. I don't think this was a film that was widely shot, at least in most parts of the world, and it's really tough to find accurate looking images. You can take a look at these images that I'm posting, and I mean, honestly, they just look pretty normal, right? The colors are pretty unremarkable. They look like just normal images that you would expect from a film stock that you bought at your local pharmacy. And these days, with not very many options out there when shooting color negative film, just anything we can get our hands on, any new variety is going to be welcomed. And something else that's worth highlighting, at least as it relates to Lucky Film and them getting back into the game, they were historically a relatively inexpensive manufacturer. Films that they sold were sold at a pretty low cost relative to the other film stocks on the market. And we can only cross our fingers and hope that once they get back in the game, once their films come to market, that they will be affordable for us today as well. So the main thing here, Lucky Film getting back into the film manufacturing game with their 400 speed black and white film coming first. But in all likelihood, due to their unique know-how, their unique situation in the market, having the machinery, having the technical know-how to bring a color film to the market, I would fully expect them to be full steam ahead trying to get that on the market soon. It really just makes too much sense. So let me know in the comments, are you guys excited that Lucky Film is going to be getting back in the game and manufacturing new film stocks once again? And if you are excited about this new film stock, take a look at this video where I talk about some of the other recently announced and upcoming film stocks for this year. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.